Welcome. I appreciate all you coming here and braving the rain. Hopefully it'll be worth it for you. And we're going to teach you some things you may not have heard before, maybe even take you some places you've never been in terms of human potential. We're going to teach you, I saw the hands that went up for those of you who had diabetes and those of you who are here in support, and the pre-diabetics, and the entire spectrum of all of us that need to know how to do this. It's an incredible epidemic. If you go to the CDC website, they have a little slide that shows the continental United States, and it has colors for the maps, and it shows what percentage of the people in that state are obese. And about every 3 years, as they go through time, beginning I think about 1982, they have to come up with a new color because a higher percentage of people, and it just goes on and on and on till some of the states 30% of the population is obese. Something's wrong. What's going on? I'm sure you all see this. I have a good friend whose wife is Polish, and his wife's mother came to visit, and they went and picked her up at the airport here in Austin and took her back to Wimberley and stopped at Walmart on the way back. And as they were checking out, his mother-in-law whispered to his wife, "Honey, what race of people are these?" And you know, apparently in Poland they don't seem to have this problem. And so, although it's growing there too. So see if we can show you what the difference is in how we need to eat, what's wrong, and what you can do about it so you can free yourself of this. Now the interesting thing about this diet is that, well, let me just ask you, have you ever discovered a truth of some sort and then followed it, and it ended up taking you much further than you ever imagined? Well, that's what it is with this diet. Because when you're through here, I think you'll understand that almost all diseases that we as human beings, are chronic diseases, that we keep reinventing more and more of them as time goes on, are a result of not following this diet. How can that be? And we'll show you what that is. See if I can get this to work here. Good. Now, I apologize a little bit because I'm going to have to step out of our lecture here just a little bit and talk to you about why doesn't your doctor know this? Why aren't we teaching this? Why isn't the American Diabetes Association teaching this? And it's really unfortunate, but I think you'll get the picture before we're through. Is the medical literature believable? Wow, that's a pretty big question to even ask. When I was in medical school, the Journal of American Medical Association, the New England Journal of Medicine, those were God's journals. I mean, if you did something according to the research that was in those journals, if you were on the witness stand defending yourself, if you cited the New England Journal of Medicine or JAMA, you were done. I mean, I step down now. Here's the research. And you probably still could from a legal point of view, but from a health point of view, that's really in question these days. Research was published in 2005 that looked at the top 4 English language medical journals on the planet. They went back 4 years, and they found that 95% of the published research had a conflict of interest. Either the people who funded the study or the people who did the study had a financial interest in the product they were talking about. And I know a lot of you are aware of this. If you're paying much attention, I hope you've maintained your curiosity about your health and don't just listen to your doctor. I tell that to my own patients. You know, I like them to bring me things they've learned, and let's investigate this. So in 2006, these 4 magazines met the following year and said, how do we regain our integrity and still remain financially afloat? This is Marcia Angell. Sorry about the picture. She's prettier than that. But she's just an amazing lady. She's a professor at Harvard. She teaches there. She practices medicine there. She had incredible honors through medical school and her undergrad career. She says the pharmaceutical industry owns our medical journals. Nothing gets published except what the pharmaceutical industry approves. That's really interesting coming from her because she's former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, where she worked for 20 years. So she's very brave in saying that. Now, bear with me as I read this. This is a quote from her. Over the past 2 decades, the pharmaceutical industry has moved very far from its original high-minded purpose of discovering and producing useful new drugs. Now, primarily a marketing machine to sell drugs of dubious benefit. This industry uses its wealth and power to co-opt every institution that might stand in its way, including the U.S. Congress. I'm sure we can all believe that from what we're seeing in the last few years. The FDA, and in fact I usually refer to the FDA as an attack dog owned by the pharmaceutical industry. Unfortunately, that's what they've become. Academic medical centers, Reed Medical School, that's what that means. And the medical profession itself. So I just want you to know that you have to maintain your curiosity and start looking on your own. I'm going to take you as far as I can, but there's so much more to be learned about health. And I'm going to give you the basics and a foundation, and I think the principles from which you can weigh what you hear in the future. Weigh it against this, okay? Overlay it. See if it still makes sense with what we're going to learn here today, because I really feel like we're on to something, what we're going to teach you here today. This is a little more. Dr. David Graham is a deputy director at the FDA. He basically said FDA's handling of Merck's withdrawal of painkiller Vioxx is a profound regulatory failure by an agency incapable of protecting America from another dangerous drug. You know, NutraSweet was turned down 3 times by the FDA as being unfit for human consumption. So Cyril, the company that had the patent on this sweetener, this artificial sweetener, hired Donald Rumsfeld to be their CEO. Well, in 3 months, it's in everything. It's on the market. It just sort of bypassed. So nobody's watching out. Maybe we just need to grow our own food. So they tried to discredit him. Apparently it was okay that Merck altered the data on Vioxx to try and get it approved, and killed at least 600,000 people. This is over in Europe, England, etc. From heart attack and stroke. One of my patients, I was part of a class action suit where I was being sued for one of my patients. Bless her heart, I put on Vioxx, I believe the FDA, and she wasn't really going after me, I don't think. So that has pretty well been settled, but you know, you're at risk, even as a physician, believing in what the FDA tells you. There are several hundred thousands of other people that had heart attacks and strokes that did not die. So they're not part of that 600,000. It's finally pulled from the market. If you saw how Vioxx works, if you looked at it, I won't take the time here, but in 5 minutes you would say, that's going to cause heart attack and stroke, okay? It promotes clots. It disrupts the body's ability to disintegrate clots that form. Merck commissioned Elsevier, the #1 medical publisher on the planet, to create out of thin air 9 peer-reviewed medical journals and paid doctors to put their name on research that was never done. They created a journal so that they could showcase their medications as better than other drug companies' medications, and those journals were made mainly by computer. None of that research was done. Now let me tell you, this is interesting. Merck was so humbled by this discovery. You never heard this. You know, this needs to be, you know, across the trailers, on all the news shows. People need to be talking about it, because this is who we've been trusting. Merck was so humbled by this discovery, they decided to buy the publishing company. Okay, so we're not talking about normal minds here, obviously. And I don't know how they got that way, but that's what we're dealing with. I feel I'm lucky. Early in my medical career, I started recognizing that a lot of the drugs that I prescribed was a rob Peter to pay Paul situation. I also recognized that the only tools I was really taught to use was a scalpel and a prescription pad, a drug. a molecule that probably never existed on the planet prior to the pharmaceutical company making it. And that just didn't fit with my understanding of life on Earth. My undergraduate degree's in biology. I understand ecology. I understand how all that system works to produce strong individual organisms running around on this planet. And that's what we've been until we made a mistake about 10,000 years ago. So I started looking for other ways to help my patients. A fellow came into my office one day and said, I've got this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. It's just a long list of problems. You know, I'd never seen this fellow before. And then he said, but I don't want to take any drugs. And I think I was really tired. It was the end of the week, and my energy was low, and I said to him, I said, well, what'd you come to me for? I'm a doctor of medicine. Well, that echoed in my ears a long time. That was painful, what I said. I finally ended up, he allowed me to backpedal a little bit, and I was able to come up with a game plan that made sense to him, and we helped him. And I knew enough about nutrition because I was very interested in that prior to going to medical school. And so I retained some of that curiosity and interest. Most of that was totally destroyed, though, in medical school. That's for people who don't have a license to practice medicine. Now you have the real power to heal. No, that's not what we do. We very seldom, people heal. Doctors can sometimes help, and sometimes what we do is extremely important. I think our emergency medicine is the best in the world, and we're really good at that, but we're very bad at long-term care. If you've been going to the doctor very long, pretty soon you've got a list of drugs that just keeps growing. How many drugs does it take before there's a guaranteed interaction, a negative interaction? 5, statistically. If you have 5 prescription drugs, there is a bad interaction between those two. And those things are kept from doctors. There are a few books you can look at, but I encourage you to scan the internet. Doctors always poo-poo that, and they usually don't want to see what you've brought them. So I started going to nutrition conferences, and I found out pretty quick these people really didn't like what I did. I mean, they liked doctors okay, they just thought we were misled. And by the end of the second day, I got it. They're right. They're right. We've got all these symptoms down here, and if you look across this, the chalkboards as we're writing, we got a cause over here. And downstream you get symptoms from that, and that's what we go complain about as patients. We're all patients. And then you get a drug for that symptom, a prescription drug. And so now you're married to the pharmaceutical company for the rest of your life. And nobody's treating cause, but doc, why do I have this? That's not part of the education. We learn about things to the degree that we need to so that we can get a drug started or to diagnose. And if you treat upstream, which seldom needs a drug, then you've empowered this person.